Hi guys, I'm Megan Trezza, founder of La Jolla Learning Works, and today we're going to be talking about ISEE test prep vocabulary instruction. So let's get started here. A little introduction. So first of all, the goals of our vocabulary instruction with ISEE are, of course, to improve performance on the test itself, specifically in the verbal reasoning and reading comprehension sections. But we're also looking at the bigger picture for students and trying to give them some tools that will really help them in their studies as they go through school through the future. And the methods that we're going to talk about today are exactly that, things that you can use from elementary class to studying for a college entrance exam or LSAT or GRE, anything like that will always be a helpful tool for students to have. So our approach with the vocabulary instruction differs a bit from what students do at school, which is typically taking long lists of words and quickly memorizing them, connecting a word with a specific meaning in a very rote way. So it's language with language, and usually they remember it and later forget it. And they know it enough to match the specific word and the specific set of words for that definition for a vocabulary test, but they can't use it in their writing, or they may not even recognize it in context in reading. So what we're doing instead with our instruction is we're shooting to help students really develop deep conceptual understanding of the words in a way that will be a lasting memory for them, and that they can then apply to those different settings, whether it's writing, whether it's talking, whether it's reading. And thinking about the test itself, verbal reasoning really involves thinking critically as well as reading comprehension. You have to do that analytical thinking, and so we want to really enhance students' ability to reason and think about language through these exercises. So let's talk about vocabulary cartoons. This is our first method. For vocabulary cartoons, we're kind of building on the principles of our visualizing and verbalizing program for educational therapy, where we know that connecting a word with a picture is a much better way to comprehend the meaning of that word and remember it. So we are going to do some actual drawing here to help students develop their conceptual understanding of the words. The process. So first of all, where to find words. So when you're working with students in ISEE, you're encountering new words for them all over the place. So especially when you just start out with them and you're doing a review of their diagnostic test, and you're doing any review of homework exercises, the practice exercises and sessions, always be on the lookout for new words that you can capture and use in these exercises to help broaden the student's vocabulary. So we have, leveled vocabulary lists in the student binder itself. We also have the verbal reasoning exercises and the reading comprehension passages, but you may find words a student doesn't understand in quantitative reasoning, in those math, definitions, and even maybe in the directions themselves of the test questions. So just make sure you're always on the lookout for new words. And we also have a Quizlet where we have vocabulary words for students, so they can use that tool as well. So how to make the vocabulary cartoons. So I will start here and I'll show you. First I want to just show you in the student binder where you can find those word lists. So in your verbal reasoning section, you kind of flip through and you're going to find, I believe it's just all the way at the end, maybe if you even flip, well, it's kind of in the middle, let's see. So it's just past our word part exercises. These are taken from a Princeton Review book. And so after the word web exercises, you come to making vocabulary cartoons, and you have these lists. And the lists are, they're all separated out by the test level. So some will say lower level vocabulary words. Of course, if a student's doing middle level and they have a really weak vocabulary, this would be a good place to start. But if you're working with a lower level student, do not do the middle and upper level words. Those are going to be too challenging for them. So that's where you're going to find your words. And let's talk about how you do the vocabulary cartoons now. So you will see the process here. We're just using a simple spiral bound notebook, and you can start with a blank page for the student, and you're going to make a demo for them. You're going to show them how easy this is for them to do on their own at home. They just draw a line to make a small space, and they're going to draw a line to make a bigger space, and then they're going to draw another line to separate out two smaller spaces. So small, big, small, small. on the bottom, you're going to make a little key for them so that they remember what they're supposed to be doing with this. So you're going to write for them a word. You could include over here part of speech, especially if it's a word that has multiple meanings depending on the part of speech. This is their illustration. And you can make a drawing just so that they, remember what that's for, with more of that like visual connection. This is where a sentence using the word in context is going to go. And this is the definition. When we want to really shift students away from lengthy definitions and towards just doing simple synonyms. So encourage them to come up with a synonyms. That's actually going to be more helpful for our verbal reasoning exercises anyhow. So there's that. So now let's do an example with a real word. So let's just say the word is, we'll first make our map here, our little template here, our outline. There's that, small, big, small, small. So let's say our word is juggle, but we're not talking about juggling balls, we're talking about juggling tasks. So we have juggle, and we're going to note that it's a verb. And so we're talking about juggling tasks. The student might show, and of course, they're going to be like, I'm not a great drawer. Maybe they are a great drawer, but, oftentimes they say it can be very rough. I'm not a great drawer either. So here's a person. They are happy because they're juggling. And they're putting things up in the air. We'll draw their hands. Actually, I shouldn't say they're happy. Maybe they're not happy because in this case, they may be overwhelmed by juggling too many tasks. Make some simple clothes. And so thinking of things you could be juggling, maybe it's, all that stuff on your phone. There's your phone. There's that book you need to read for school. There's the soccer ball for the game you play. You make your little soccer ball. This person's juggling all sorts of things, and it may be helpful to show them a little bit stressed, but you might then encourage them to use their picture for a sentence and making sure that the sentence really conveys the meaning and the context of how you would use this word in this sense. So you could say something like, and I would encourage the student to come up with it, but prompt them, how would you use this word in a sentence that really shows this meaning? They might say, I like being busy and juggling lots of tasks. I like being busy and juggling lots of tasks. And then lastly, the definition. So when you talk about juggle and juggling different tasks, you can look this up in the dictionary, you can talk about it, maybe you come up with some good words together. You might think of juggle as balance different things, balancing. Another definition that you might use for juggle would be, let's see, I would probably want to look at the dictionary myself. I'm having a hard time thinking off the top of my head, but you guys get the idea. So, just come up with a couple different words that they can use for that. And then I want to show you how you're going to have them then use this tool. So that's then how you create it. But the last step here that's important is to actually use it to review the words. And this is something students can do on their own. So you take then, here's their pages that they've made, and they can use it now from the bottom to the top, just like they created it to study the word. So this is how they're quizzing themselves, kind of like a flashcard where you're looking at one side and thinking about what the answer is. But here in this case, they have some hints. So juggle, so they're going to try and remember, what did juggle mean? Oh, like throwing things in the air? Let me see. Well, yeah, this person's throwing things, but now they're going to remember, I was talking about throwing my phone and my school books and my soccer ball. Juggle is like, managing a lot of different things at once. And then they can check their sentence. I like being busy and juggling lots of tasks. Yep, that's a good sentence. And balancing, managing different tasks. So those sort of things that they can, use to remember their words. So this is something great they can do for homework. They can do a few of the words in session with you. I think it's important to do that at first with the students so that they really learn how to, do good pictures and good sentences and make sure that they're really going through that critical thinking process. So the next method we're going to talk about is word webs. So for our word webs, we're again talking about that lasting memory for students and really developing their reasoning skills. So we're going to be using word parts to help figure out different vocabulary words. So instead of just a single word, we're going to now be able to apply a word part to a number of different words. So the process. So first of all, your materials. You have the materials we kind of skimmed over here in the binder. So in your verbal reasoning section, again, just past the introduction, you get to the word parts index. So the students are going to use this as they then go through each word group exercise. And the first thing they're going to be doing is making the memory game that we're going to do for this cluster of word parts. So you'll see the word part exercises. That's what the instruction is, to make a memory cards for the following word parts. So you're going to do these with the student to start with, just so that you can model it for them. They're going to need one card for every word part in that group. So you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So you're going to count out that many cards. We're working on a template of these word parts with the meanings, so that you would just have to cut them out with the student. So look for that. If it's in the binder, you can use it. If not, you have 3x5 cards. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now you guys know why we have a lot of these 3x5 cards around the office. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut them in half. So I'm not gonna do all of them today, just for the sake of time. We'll just do a few of them. So we're gonna cut them in half. And for every word part, they're gonna get 2 pieces. So we're making a memory game. So for each part, you're gonna have one part as the root and one part as the meaning. So we can start by just doing the words that are on here. Let's do a few of them. We have cron, we have morph, we can do, let's see how many cards I had, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's just do 4 here, and we can do path, and we can do sin. So we have, oops, we do need those. So we have all of those. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to that word part index. So looking at the index, now you're gonna have the student look up the meaning of each one. And so they should all be in alphabetical order for them. So you can organize it like that here. So for cron, you're gonna look it up. Cron means time. And as you do each one now, you're gonna have the student think about what is an illustration that will help them remember the meaning of that word part. So time is pretty simple. We can make a clock. So there's our clock. We want to do the same illustration, pretty much on the same place on each card, just so that it's a simple visual image for them to remember. And then we look at morph. Coming down our list, we're looking for the M. There's M. Morph means shape or form. So here we have shape, form. And so shape, form, I might just think of a triangle. It's a shape. That's something simple. And then path. So path is not a walkway in this sense. It's a part of a word that would be used to convey the meaning feeling. So path means feeling. I remember doing this with some students, and we use drama masks for it, but you can also do like a heart. That might be a good one too. What is a feeling? Or maybe it's just a person. You show, a person that's sad. Maybe you have a feeling. So there's that, sad face. And the last one, sin, we're gonna look that one up, and sin means same. So for same, we could come up with anything that we could draw simply that is exactly the same. So I might do, maybe these are twins. So I have this, so I'm showing they're the same. So see, I'm trying to keep the illustrations really simple. and things that the student can draw quickly. So then to play your memory game, let me get ahead here in the slide so you can see. Here's the word part memory game steps. So what you're going to do then is you are going to have the student, kind of mix them all up just like a card game. They can shuffle them, they can just mix them up on the table. And they're going to then turn all the cards upside down and set them up in somewhat of a grid. So you have all this. So here's your little grid. And then to play the game, it's ideal for 2 players, but a student could do it by themselves. You just start and you turn over 2 cards. So here's feeling, and your idea is you're trying to find the matches. So feeling, we don't know, where could it be? Oh, that's path. Path, feeling. I actually got the match. It has the same picture. So I got lucky. So I have those 2. So if it were my turn or I was just playing by myself, I'd be done there. I won that. And then I could continue. Let's try and find another one. So let's see. I'm going to try sin, same. I don't know where it is. Let's just guess. Oh, but it's not the same one, but I found out time. So if I can find cron and I can remember that this is here, then I've got a match. So sin, same, time, turn them back over. Now I'm going to try a different one. Same. So I now know I have a match there. So there's my second one, and now I'm going to play around here and see if I can figure it out. Yep, there we go. And then here's my last one, shape form. So that is how you play the root memory game. The last step that you're going to do is in the binder, after every 2 word groups, there's a quiz just to make sure that students remember the meaning of these words. So as you go through, you're going to find a quiz for each 2 groups. So that's something you could do at the beginning of a session after they complete those word groups, and just make sure that they're still remembering them. So that is the word part memory. The second part of this then is using the roots to help us figure out new words and actually practice those reasoning, exercises. So what we do for that is we look at our groups here, back at the word part exercises, and following the word parts, it says word webs, and there's a list of words. There's actually some bonus words too, so there's a lot of words we can play with here. But what we're going to do with this is we're going to take this word web words, and we're going to use the template to make a web that uses the word webs to predict what the meaning is of the word, and then putting it into a sentence and checking the dictionary for the actual meaning. I have an example that I've made for you guys here so you could see. So for example, if we did the word synchronize, so here we have our, cron is time, sin is same. You don't necessarily have to have these out at this point. You want the student to know these by heart because they're not going to have these cards in the test with them. So they're going to look at the word synchronize and they're going to recognize these roots. Sin, and you're filling in the meaning same. Cron, filling in the meaning time, and then having them do a prediction. So if I were thinking about that and I look at sin and meaning the same, cron meaning time, something happening at the same time or doing something at the same time would be a good prediction. That's also going to be pretty close to the dictionary definition. They're not always that close, but at least it's a good exercise to go through that process of thinking about what the meaning would be based on the roots. Then you always do want to check it in the dictionary because, like I said, sometimes they're not so similar. And then once you figure out the meaning of the word, use it in a sentence. Again, a sentence that uses good context to show the meaning of the word. We were impressed with the synchronized musicians at the concert. So that's an example of how you would use those. So just as a little wrap up, the applications we would have for the word webs, really to build vocabulary knowledge for reading comprehension, apply to any unknown words that arise in those reading comprehension passages, always looking for the roots. You'll know as the instructor, if there's some roots that you'd recognize that the students learned or that you want them to learn. And if it's not that kind of a word, we do vocabulary cartoon instead. So same thing for verbal reasoning, looking at the synonym exercises, helping them to predict the word using the roots while you're going through those exercises too. And obviously not making a whole web for it, but if they've gone through that process and they know that thinking exercise and they can apply it on the test itself too. So I hope you have fun with these exercises with your students. I've always enjoyed doing these, and I think your enthusiasm can be magnetic to the student and they can start having fun learning new words too. So anyhow, if you have any questions, check in with your supervisor. We'll be happy to help you. Thanks so much for watching.